Right now at noon, restaurants in Charlottesville are finding ways to help people ring in the new year tonight under pandemic restrictions. The rollout of coronavirus vaccines in Virginia is slower than expected. Governor Ralph Northam explains when more people should get their first shot.
And our live Charlottesville cam showing a lot of clouds across Central Virginia and the Shenandoah Valley as we get ready for more rain and some freezing rain. I'll let you know what to expect and when things will be clearing out. Your NBC 29 News at Noon starts right now.
Live in high definition from the area's most experienced news team. This is NBC 29 HD News at Noon.
2021 now less than 12 hours away. Not that anybody's counting to get rid of 2020, of course. You're looking live at Times Square in New York City. It's nearly empty. That's because crowds of partiers are not allowed to gather there this year, of course, because of the pandemic. The iconic New Year's Eve ball drop, though, will go on with the countdown to midnight. It is already the new year in New Zealand. The Pacific Island nation is one of the first countries in the world to officially roll over the calendar to 2021. Its largest city of Auckland celebrated with a fireworks display there and the light show over the Harbor Bridge and Sky Tower. The display featured an additional 40 searchlights to previous years. Good afternoon and happy New Year's Eve to you. I'm Matt Talhelm. The weather here at home is maybe trying to tell us to stay in to count down the final hours of 2020. We have a cold rain on the way, maybe even some icy conditions in the valley. Let's get to Storm Team 29 meteorologist David Rogers tracking our first forecast. David, what can we expect if we're heading out tonight? We'll look forward to that. Thank you, David. State restrictions on gatherings, alcohol sales, and a curfew will change how people celebrate this New Year's Eve in Charlottesville. Restaurants are adapting to the changes. Tonic Bar and Restaurant in Charlottesville is preparing for its first New Year's Eve in business. It says takeout is popular. It's also lucky enough to have a patio for outdoor dining. Tonic manager Matthew Norwood explains the role restaurants can serve in bringing joy into 2021. Current COVID restrictions in Virginia prohibit the sale of alcohol after 10 p.m. A statewide curfew is also in effect from midnight to 5 a.m. You won't see crowds like these on Charlottesville's downtown mall tonight. That's because First Night Virginia is canceled for what would have been its 39th year. The family-friendly New Year's Eve tradition typically attracts thousands of people to the mall and nearby businesses. Organizers are planning to bring First Night back to ring in 2022. Tonight on your NBC 29 News at 5 and 6, we'll check in with some of the businesses downtown to see what they expect from this very different New Year's Eve. The pandemic is forcing many cities to scale back New Year's Eve events. Perhaps nowhere will things look more different than in Times Square. That's where we find NBC's Gabe Gutierrez this afternoon. Now here at home, Virginia is ending the year with the largest day-to-day increase in coronavirus cases. 5,239 new infections bring the total number of cases since the start of the pandemic in March to 349,584. The Virginia Department of Health reports 48 additional deaths Wednesday. The virus has killed 5,032 Virginians to date. The weekly positivity rate is up another 0.5% to 13.2%. That is as high as it was May 21st. The Thomas Jefferson Health District, which includes Charlottesville and Albemarle counties, also ending the year with a big increase in coronavirus cases. It reports 125 new cases since Wednesday. That brings the total to 7,562 since the start of the pandemic in March. No new deaths are reported. The virus has killed 92 people district-wide. The rate of positive coronavirus cases in Central Virginia is on the rise. It increased 0.5% to 7.9%. Virginia has only administered about 20% of the coronavirus vaccines it's received from manufacturers over the past 2 weeks. The Department of Health vaccination dashboard shows about 54,300 people received the first dose so far. State health officials believe that number is actually higher because healthcare providers are having issues getting vaccination data to the state in order to update those numbers. Still, they admit the vaccine rollout is going slower than originally expected.
Supply dependent.
The Commonwealth hopes to receive additional shipments of vaccines from Moderna and Pfizer by the end of this week. That would get the state to about 370,000 doses of the first phase of vaccination, which includes frontline healthcare workers. Despite the rising coronavirus cases in Central Virginia, many people are still traveling for the holidays. Charlottesville-Albemarle Airport says it is seeing between 600 and 800 passengers in and out each day. Tuesday marked the fourth day in a row the Transportation Security Administration screened more than 1 million passengers at airport checkpoints nationwide. If you do plan on flying, the airport advises you to check in with your airline to see what COVID safety measures are in place. Shenandoah Valley Airport in Weir's Cave says it also seeing an increase in travelers over this holiday weekend. The airport is served by United Express, which flies from Shenandoah to Dulles and Chicago's O'Hare. A spokesperson says more passengers are opting for the smaller airport, due in part to its SHD Cares initiative, which involves enhanced COVID safety measures. New at noon, authorities are calling off a search for a driver of a truck that went off the side of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel Tuesday morning. 47-year-old Eric Mezek from Fruitland, Maryland, has not been found. Witnesses to the crash say they saw him get out of the truck and then drift into the bay. Crews pulled the truck from the water Wednesday. Police say they will look for mechanical malfunctions and review information from the truck's black box. A Waynesboro man faces 9 felony charges in connection to a child sex abuse investigation. Police arrested 34-year-old Christopher Dixon Wednesday. His charges include indecent liberties with a child and aggravated sexual battery. Police say the investigation involves reports of sexual abuse of a juvenile that allegedly happened over the course of the year on the city's north side. Dixon is held without bond at Middle River Regional Jail. Orange County is mourning the loss of a longtime supervisor. Flags are being flown at half-staff across the county for S. Teal Goodwin. Goodwin served on the board for more than a decade, representing District 3. He was also board chairman and vice chairman for many years. Goodwin served on the board's Broadband Authority and several other committees. He leaves behind a wife and a son. Covering Virginia this afternoon, the former Speaker of the House of Delegates brought his campaign for governor to Charlottesville and the Shenandoah Valley Wednesday. Republican Kirk Cox talked about COVID relief efforts and how he thinks Virginia should spend those funds. Cox says his top priorities are support for schools and businesses as well as addressing unemployment. The sister of an African-American man killed by Richmond police is running for governor. Princess Blanding has been an activist for police reform since her brother, Marcus David Peters, was shot and killed in 2018. She successfully lobbied for the Marcus Alert Bill, which establishes a statewide mental health awareness response to people in crisis and limits the role of law enforcement. Blanding criticized the version that passed the General Assembly, though, as ineffective. She's running under the newly formed Liberation Party. A Charlottesville nonprofit is leading the charge to get Virginia lawmakers to push for electric vehicle legislation in the 2021 General Assembly. Generation 180 proposes bills to make owning an electric vehicle easier. That includes the Advanced Clean Car Program Vehicle Standard, which would require new dealerships to sell new electric vehicles. It also proposes lowering the price for new and used electric vehicles through a rebate system.
So every year that we don't pass.
The nonprofit says more than half of Virginians are likely to consider an electric vehicle as their next car. Fans of Charlottesville's live music scene don't have to leave the comfort of their home to hear a concert. The Save the Music series is connecting performers and audiences in this virtual pandemic world. Plus,
this is what America's all about. When things go down, when push comes to shove, we all rally around to what's going on.
2020 became a year to highlight the everyday heroes that help our communities thrive through a life-changing crisis. We're taking a look back at some of the people who made a lasting impact. And welcome back. This year has been one of the most difficult in most of our lifetimes. We've all been touched by loss, even if the pandemic has not hit close to home, because our daily way of life has changed drastically, if not forever. NBC's Jay Gray reminds us of the heroes who stepped up to help in the midst of so much pain. And many of you shared your heroes with us throughout the year, from frontline healthcare workers to teachers and delivery drivers. You introduced us to the people making a difference in Central Virginia and the Shenandoah Valley. You can take a look back at some of the faces who helped our communities get through this pandemic by searching Honor Your Hero at NBC29.com. Thank you for sharing their stories, and of course, we thank all our heroes for their contributions.